Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. and serves as the city's policy-making and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the Chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. The Chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at www.siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting www.siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City Government.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We're certainly pleased to have everybody here in such a great attendance. It is Tuesday, September 17th. We'd like to start off by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Entman.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Jamison.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Thanks, Council. As with every meeting here in the City of Sioux Falls at a City Council, we start with an invocation, a prayer, a blessing. Tonight, that blessing or that prayer will be completed by our City Councilor, Rex Rolfing. Thank you, Councilor, for doing that. We'd ask you to stand, remain standing, and then after Councilor Rolfing is done, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor, thank you.
In Romans, Paul tells us about being a good citizen, talking about what government does for us and what we are to do for government. It says it is a Christian's obligation to support all our governing authorities, regardless of whether or not those leaders seek order and good among us, and to do that for the people that they serve. Christians Paul lifts up these three important things. Governments are God's servants. Governments are to work as an orderly society. And governments are to work for the good of all people. It is a Christian's civil duty to cooperate with governments as they seek these things. Paul gets practical too. He encourages us to pay our taxes so that governments may carry out their work. Paul might have added voting to this list of Christian duties too. We are called to participate to making good government because God works through the government of all common good. A Christian cannot hold himself or herself above this important practical work. Let us pray. God, who brought order out of chaos, continue your good work through government and leaders to foster just and orderly societies for the good of all humankind. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor, again, thank you for that blessing. We appreciate it. We do have some very, very special guests in the audience tonight. I just had the opportunity to spend a half hour with these young men, and I would like to introduce them. They are PAC 162. They are first-year Webelos and third and fourth graders. Not only are they here, but their leaders are here, their moms and dads are here. If we could just give them a round of applause and get the camera on them too. Again, men, thanks for coming here tonight, and stay as long as you'd wish. We do have a lot to do tonight, and we're going to go right into our consent agenda. Council, any changes to tonight's consent agenda? Councilor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 2 items from the consent calendar. The one dealing with the grant for home investment partnership at $193,000, and then also the one dealing with the amendment to agreement for consulting services for $152,750.
And Councilor, would you mind repeating those? I apologize. I didn't understand it, and I don't think Tamara did either.
Okay, let me say, I'll just read the whole thing to make sure. Project description, 2013 tenant-based rental assistance action grant for home investment partnership program. Vendors, Sioux Falls Housing and Redevelopment, $193,000. And then the second one is the project description, event center action amendment to agreement for consulting services. Vendor, Tigra Group, and the amount is $152,750.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
There is a second by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Is there a discussion? Councilor Staggers?
Well, I guess maybe the first thing I should ask is, do we put this at the end of the regular agenda, or do we talk about them now?
David? I think Councilor Staggers is asking a question. Do we do it at the end of the, or do we do it now?
We've always had allowed by ordinance one counselor to pull a contract off the consent agenda, and then we put it right at the beginning of the regular agenda. But
Okay.
if you folks are all agreeable to whatever order,
It's
up
make
to
any
you.
difference.
Councilor?
I mean, we don't have to vote, Mr. Mayor, because one council member, but I would prefer it be first, since it's something that's on the
yeah.
right away, since it's with the consent agenda.
That's fine.
Don't you think?
Okay, so can we'll just put those at the beginning of the regular meeting. Okay, very good, very good. Any other changes to the consent agenda, Council? Can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve, Entenmann. Second, Karski.
There's been a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, other than those 2 items that were stated by Councilor Staggers, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to our regular agenda. Council, any changes or motions? Councilor?
Move to approve Erpenbach.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson, or Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Any discussion, Council? Councilor Karski?
I think I'd make a motion to amend the regular agenda by placing agenda item 26 before agenda item 18.
Second, Erpenbach.
There's been a motion by Councilor Karski to amend tonight's agenda by placing agenda item 26 before agenda item 18. It has been seconded. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
And this is to approve the amendment.
Yes.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Council, any more changes to the agenda tonight? We have an amended regular agenda. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 8-0. Thank you very much. Again, welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We're very, very pleased to have such a great turnout. This is also an opportunity for you to engage the City Council. If you've got something you want to talk about that is not going to be discussed later on, what we'd ask you to do is come forward now, just introduce yourself to the people of our town, And then if you could limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, we would appreciate that. Again, welcome. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Greg Ellis, and I presently live at 305 West 2nd Street, and I'm be relocating at the end of the month over to about 26 and Sycamore. But what I'm doing is I am trying to save a piece of history, and the piece of history is right now sitting on top of the U.S. Bank building, or U.S. Bank sign at 33rd and Minnesota. And that's an old weather ball. And I'm just wondering if the City Council and possibly Mr. Kearney with the Park Department, I'd like to find a location for it once I get the sponsors and the money, to possibly put it somewhere down around the 10th and 11th 2nd Avenue area, or even on top or attach it to the old Rock Island Railroad Bridge that's over there, you know, just off of 9th Street. And I'm just wondering if the City Council, if it goes on city property, would be able to approve maybe 10 square feet to put it up on, you know, something that's fairly high, like a flagpole and something, and then trying to work with all the TV stations to get it operational, maybe on a rotational basis. So it's just a piece of history, because actually the first one went into service 60 years ago on August 28th. So just a piece of history. It's been sitting idle, but then we'll put a historical marker there, maybe if we raise enough money with the jingle and everything, and just save a unique piece of Sioux Falls history that I think is worth saving.
Well, Greg, thank you. We normally don't get into a dialogue tonight,
Right.
but what I would recommend is getting a hold of either my office or the Parks and Rec office, or even the Historical Society, whoever you think could drive this the most efficient way, and then we'll work through this process with you.
Right, because I am a member of the Historical Society for Minnehaha County, and also I have talked to and trying to set up an account with the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation, so donations can go there. But I'm just wondering what kind of procedure would be just to get a little plot of land to put a little stand and maybe a flagpole or something that, you know, we're not asking the city to spend any money.
Yep.
Just donate a little piece of land, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I think you found the right stewards who can help you, and I would just encourage you to just follow that process.
Sure will.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we get it
Thanks
done.
for being engaged.
Thanks.
You bet.
You too.
Please come forward, folks. Who's next? Welcome, Mr. Stenga.
Tim Stanka. I know it's budget time, and I just want to remind you that there is a lot of people in town that are hurting and struggling, and it's up to the city council to help everybody. So I'm hoping that we take that in consideration. I'm here because of the article that was in the paper about the Convention and Visitors Bureau money. I can remember sitting in this chambers listening to Mr. Entenman and Mr. Bosch talk about what kind of money they were trying to bring forth for the city to be able to just advertise what kind of community we live in. And now it states in here that people want to tap into that money. Well, I can remember them stating that that money is for promoting Sioux Falls. And that's just what it was for. So I'm hoping I'm hoping we're all on the same page on keeping that money for promoting Sioux Falls. And you just can't say it enough that we got a good community. And people, you know, they do hear about us. Not only if I go outside of Sioux Falls, I go to Minneapolis or something, you know, they know about Sioux Falls. So, I mean, it is out there. The word is out there. People have listened. So I just want to let you know that I would like to keep that money where it's supposed to be. Then another thing is we turned it over to another attorney to look at. I guess what I'd like to know is how much we're paying this attorney to go through the law or whatever to find out if they can take the money or not. What are we, as citizens of Sioux Falls, paying this attorney to go over this? And I just think that as a citizen, it shouldn't be us paying that fee. It should be the people that want the money. And I just think that they should come up with that money for the attorney. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Stinga. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. My name is Brett Healy from Puckwauna, South Dakota. I've got some information to lay out to you, and then just I'll go through it a little bit.
Brett, if you could just, you stay up there. We'll take care of that. And just go ahead and continue the dialogue. Thank you. It's okay. Thank you, Brett.
I'm here on behalf of O.J. Siemens, the Executive Director of Four Directions, Inc., a voting rights advocacy organization for Native American voting across basically the West. This is in regard to the recent Brooks versus Gant case in which the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, which there's 400 public entities in South Dakota that are members of, including the city of Sioux Falls, that fund the insurance coverage with taxpayer dollars. After the case was dismissed, the attorney for Shannon and Fall River counties filed what's called a taxation of costs with the court. When challenged on this, her response was that it was the Public Assurance Alliance that had made the decision to go forward to make that happen. We're trying to bring this to your attention. We think it's a morally objectionable way to go, basically going after $6,300 of costs, when in essence the plaintiffs won the relief they were asking for from the court, in that the state and the counties literally caved. They provided the satellite voting registration and in-person voting or absentee voting office that was requested by the plaintiffs. This has voting rights plays, if you will. The Voting Rights Act clearly calls for the vote not to be restricted on account of race. There's a reason the state and the counties folded on this and didn't fight it on voting rights grounds. They were going to lose in that regard. The other thing I would bring to your attention, the moral dimensions are pretty straightforward. Going after plaintiffs that don't have a lot of money for $6,300, they're not going to get it, by the way. A similar case, the City of Martin case, the defendants represented by the same law firm went after the plaintiffs in that case for $19,000 in costs. They were awarded $1,000 because they found one plaintiff that had a $55,000 a year job and tagged her with that $1,000 cost. If you prorate that, they're likely to get $350 if they find a plaintiff that has some money out of those 25 impoverished plaintiffs. They're going to spend $10,000 of your taxpayer money to get that done. It's morally objectionable. But more importantly, if you turn to the middle part of this document, we've done some analysis on just 3 court cases involving voting rights in South Dakota, including the most recent. The first one, the Cottier case, which I just referenced, City of Martin. If you make the assumption that both sides in a court case spend about the same amount of money, the Public Assurance Alliance, of which the City of Sioux Falls is a member, spent $650,000 going after, instead of just having the City of Martin say, you know what, we're going to have equal voting districts, they had a multi-year lawsuit in which they spent a whole lot of money, taxpayer money. The second case, the Black Moon case out of Charles Mix County, the Assurance Alliance paid both sides. In fact, paid the defense costs, but also wrote a check to the ACLU attorneys in the amount of $110,000. And then the third case, if you take the Brooks case based on the plaintiff's hours and a $225 rate per hour, the $25,000 expert report, there was an expert report on the defendant's side, they spent $210,000 to come back to the same point as if they'd have just done the right thing. And the money was there. The federal money was there to cover the costs of that satellite office in Shannon County. So, to wrap up, to be brief, I wanted to bring this to your attention as a vital member, as one of the rich members of this Public Assurance Alliance. Your taxpayer dollars not only being used to go after plaintiffs in what we think is a fairly morally objectionable way, but you're spending a whole lot of money fighting some ideological voter suppression battles in western counties in South Dakota. And then finally, more of this is coming. The ACLU just a week ago on Monday endorsed the 4-direction civil rights complaint that we filed on behalf of the Ogallala, Cheyenne River, and Crow Creek Sioux tribes on the denial by Secretary Gant and the Board of Elections to provide HAVA money for satellite offices in Eagle Butte, Wambalee, and Fort Thompson, and that civil rights complaint, if you will, endorsed by the ACLU, their letter looks like the first draft of a lawsuit, and you combine that with the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Association also endorsing that civil rights complaint. There's more of these voting rights battles coming. With that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Healy, and welcome to Sioux Falls. We appreciate that. Anybody else? Well, very good. Steve?
Mayor, City Council, Steve Hildebrand. I own Josiah's Coffee House and Cafe, which is downtown Sioux Falls on the East Bank. And I wanted to come tonight just to ask for some consideration by you all to take a look at the number of street closures that we deal with in the downtown area. I'm a big supporter of downtown, and you all know that. And I love all the visitors that we're bringing downtown for road races and parades and other things. And I'm not here to complain about that. I'm here simply to ask, is there a way to do all that we're doing and more without closing down key arteries, such as 8th and Phillips? When you close down 8th and Phillips, it becomes a very complicated process for visitors to get to the East Bank, across that river, and to the businesses across the river. So I'm not suggesting that we take anything away. I'm simply asking for, can we take a look at this? Is there a way for us to do all that we're doing and more without closing down key arteries and impacting businesses and visitors? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Folks, anybody else? Well, very good. Thank you for that comment. I know the council appreciates it, and so do I. We'll now move on to item 14.
Mayor,
we'll move on to Councilor Stagger's changes.
Yeah. When I saw these items on the consent calendar, I guess my question was, this is a large amount of money we're talking about, and if we could just get further explanation on this Grant for Home Investment Partnership Program, and also the amendment to agreement for consulting services. So if there's somebody that could provide us with more
Darren
information.
or Mark? Let's start with Mark, I guess, and then is Darren here or someone from his department? Mark?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I can speak to the TEGRA agreement for the event center. Ultimately, what this contract will do, it'll essentially quarterback everything on purchasing, or I should say writing specs, bidding, and following through with the furniture, fixtures, and equipment all the way through receiving them and making sure that they're installed. Tegra has been a good partner on the project from the beginning. They were the owner's rep for the Twins Stadium. They also did this function for the Twins. It's a very detailed process. Initially, we were planning on doing it in-house, but right now with our team's workload and finance actually delivering or deploying 2 large software conversion projects toward the end of the year, we just don't have the resources to do them internally. And so it is within the $117 million project budget. The City of Sioux Falls, as you know, has about a $5 million contingency for us to work with inside that $117 million project budget, and I've sourced those funds to pay for this.
Okay. Do you anticipate any other agreements in the future? Because, you know, like you mentioned here, you didn't have enough staff to be able to do this, so you had to have Tegra do it. Are we going to have any other agreements in the future, or is this probably it?
There certainly could be. I don't have one off the top of my head, but clearly we're just over halfway through the construction. As we need expert services, if we need to bring them on at various points of the project, we will. And so, but I couldn't speak to any additional ones tonight.
Okay.
Would Tom or Darren be here? Tom Hubert? Or, no, yeah, there we go. Come on forward. Welcome. Dwight, thank you.
Dwight McElhaney with Sioux Falls Community Development. The tenant-based rental assistance money is the housing element of the Bright Futures program, which is a counseling program that takes people that are on government assistance and helps them to become self-sufficient. There's intense case management. We require these people to get a job after a brief period of time on the program to continue. And it's an excellent program. We're seeing really good results, moving people to self-sufficiency.
Okay. Once again, what's the name of the organization that's doing this?
The tenant base is done by Sioux Falls Housing and Redevelopment.
Okay. Now, we also have private organizations that do similar things. Are we just repeating some things that are being done by the private?
I think this is kind of a unique program, Counselor. It's a self-sufficiency program. We're using the model. The counseling is through ICAP, so this is the housing element where the people are in this counseling program and being moved to self-sufficiency. So it's things like learning how to be a good parent, learning budgeting, learning how to get a job, and we're getting them to get jobs and become self-sufficient.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking of Heartland House. I think they do that, don't they?
Well, that's a similar program, but this is another program. There's a lot of demand out there. We're working with probably about 20 people in this program, and they're on and off the program within 2 years.
And then finally, why do we have the request being made now? Why wasn't it in the budget before, or why not wait until 2014? Why is it at this particular time?
I think this is a program that is not on an annual basis, and I think the reason why it comes forward now is because one program year ended mid-year, and we're asking for money to continue that program.
Okay.
Councilor Mbach.
I just wanted to clarify that the items that Councilor Staggers pulled from the consent agenda are actual contracts that are covered by the 2013 budget that we approved last year. I appreciate you giving the explanation. You've done a great job, Dwight. As I said to Dave, you've kind of taken one for the team this evening. But these are contracts that all we're doing is approving the contract that was already on the 2013 budget. These are not requests for new programming. These are not requests for new money. This is just following the 2013 budget.
Well, if you don't mind, I think Mr. Cotter indicated this was something that's kind of a last-minute thing because they didn't have resources.
No, that is not what he said. This is you've pulled two different contracts from an assortment of contracts that are on the consent agenda. And this is a different department than what Mr. Cotter was talking about, and we also talked about the
You're saying all of this was decided.
These contracts that we approve are coming out of the 2013, budget. Am I not right?
No, this is what they want to do now.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Since Darren Smith just walked in, can we have him come up and help you with this explanation to the councilman? Because it's Darren's program,
Sure,
isn't it?
sure. I thought Dwight did a good job, but it sounds like Darren, they want more.
Good evening, Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. I sincerely apologize. Ran back to the office to print a couple things. Did not anticipate this item tonight. So my understanding is Dwight has done a good job of explaining this. He is the manager in this area. If there's something further, we'd be happy to assist.
I think just an explanation that this, as Council Member Erfenbach had stated, that this program is an ongoing program and that this is a contract to approve the funding that is available now.
Yes, and this is the Bright Futures program. Yeah.
Yeah, we went through that, Darren.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what it is. This is funding that was approved in the current year budget, and so it's just executing an agreement with the organization that we have an agreement with to provide this service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. We had two items taken off the consent agenda to discuss. They have been discussed. Council, any further comments?
Move to approve both items.
Second, Entenmann.
It's been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach, seconded by Councilor Entenmann on both of these items. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 14.
Item 14 is deferred from the 2012 City Council meetings of November 6th, November 13th, December 4th, and February 5th, 2013. Joint elections, agreement to share expenses.
Hi, Lori.
Hello, Lori Hugstead, City Clerk. I'm here to give you information on this deferred agreement. This agreement, as Tamara read, has been deferred a number of times, but for very good reason. We had some questions that came up with the elections that we needed answered before we could complete the approval of this agreement. One of the items was we had just received the Snowgate petitions and had verified the petitions, the signatures, but we were not at that time yet sure if we were going to be holding the election for Snowgates in 2014 or if we were going to ask possibly to combine with the school in 2013. That's now been resolved, 2014. Also, we didn't know for sure if the school district would have an election in 2013. On occasion, it does happen that they do not have candidates, and that's critical to the cost part of this agreement, and they did indeed have an election. Another question that we had was on the e-poll books. What kind of e-poll books were we using? We had a system that we used at our last election, but chose to improve upon that, and we now know we're going to use Hart Intercivic e-poll books. And last but not least, vote centers. That was a direction that we were working very hard toward, to have a core group of vote centers that we would be able to use for every election, regardless if it was a city election, a combined city-school election, a school election only, if it was the primary or the general. And we do have those vote centers identified. I'll just briefly explain the agreement. In the agreement, the school district will publish their notice of vacancy and any items that they need to do to work with their school board candidates, including receiving petitions, verifying, et cetera, and they would furnish the city with the names of those running for school board for our ballot. And they would also provide technical assistance based on our written questions. Our aspect of the city election would be that we would conduct all aspects of the election, including creating the election map, all aspects of the ballot, including ordering the ballot stock, printing the ballots, providing supplies, hiring the election officials, making arrangements for the vote centers, arrangements for the workers, packing of ballot boxes, putting the election calendar together, and distribution of election results, just to summarize it in a brief statement. The costs of this agreement, what we have agreed to is that the district would pay the city 100% of their last standalone election, which was in May of 2013, and that number will be provided to us by November 30th of this year, and then we will find out that cost. And then the vote centers that I mentioned, we do have an addendum to this agreement that would also need to be approved per City Attorney Fifley, but that addendum would list out 13 vote centers, as I said, that we would use for all elections forthcoming. I mean, there may be a time in the distant future where we will need to possibly add one or make a change, but this is the group that we have now, and I'll just quickly read through those just by name only. We have First Lutheran Church, Wesley United Methodist Church, Kenny Anderson Community Center, Sioux Falls Arena, Owate Community Center, Mari Carr Community Center, Memorial Middle School, Peace Lutheran Church, Faith Baptist Church, Gloria Day Lutheran Church, Morningside Community Center, Asbury United Methodist Church, and the Instructional Planning Center. And just an added note on the vote centers, we just completed an ADA review of the locations and have prepared that report and submitted that report to the City Council that these 13 locations are all in compliance with the ADA regulations. So I would ask for your approval of the contract and the addendum listing the vote centers.
Lori, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item before I turn it to the council? Councilors?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Aguilar.
Been a motion to approve. It has been seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Intiman? Yes. Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 15.
Item 15 is a special one-day liquor license request for the Avera Health to be operated at the Avera Prairie Center, 1000 East 23rd Street for a National Institutes of Health social event on October 29th, 2013. And item 16 is a special one-day malt beverage license request for Sports Zone Incorporated, Rookies Sports Barn Grill to be operated at Mid-America Motoplex, 4915 Northview Avenue for a special event on September 28th, 2013.
Evening. Hi, Jamie.
Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'm here to answer any questions on 15 and 16.
Council motion.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Emmons made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Karski. Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Jamie, what is a special event?
On what? Oh, on item 16.
On number 16?
Apparently, they're promoting a new product, a new motorcycle or new.
Okay, fine. Just
Thank you. Council, roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 17.
Item 17 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-0716 to Chapter 160.446, Planned Development Districts at the northwest corner of East 73rd and South Cliff Avenue, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised Sub-Area D boundaries and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper with City Planning and Building Services. This is a petition to change the land uses on a parcel that's located on the south side of Sioux Falls. As we said in the introduction, it's at the north west corner of what would be 73rd Street and South Cliff Avenue. The applicant is Tom Howes, representing I-90 Fuel Services. And this is a proposal to amend the land uses from office to commercial to allow the future development of a gas stop convenience store. Again, this is part of the Diamond Valley development area. The original proposal that was approved showed this as future office. There will continue to be office development on the west side of this proposed convenience store. And the Planning Commission has recommended approval of this major amendment. There would be one more public hearing required in front of the Planning Commission for their final development plan prior to any building permit issuance.
Mike, thank you. This is a second reading, folks. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Council? Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, have we heard from any of the citizens in the area?
This did go through Planning Commission hearing, and we have not had any neighborhood opposition.
Move to approve, Karski.
second, Rolfing.
Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 26.
Item 26 is a resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and the 2014-2018 capital program.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tom Huber with the Finance Office. This resolution and the accompanying appropriation ordinance, the next item on the agenda, will bring the 2014 budget process to a conclusion. To begin, I'd first like to thank all the directors and their teams for all the cooperative efforts throughout the budget process to prepare for the forward-looking budget that's before you for consideration. I'd also like to thank the finance team. Not only did they put countless hours on the budget, but they also but they also are managing to implement new financial software at the same time. Their hard work and dedication is second to none, and the team effort is so appreciated. The budget has been presented, and over the last several months, we had a series of 3 budget hearings, all of which were open to the public, broadcast on Channel 16 and webcast, as well as you've held 2 working sessions to review the budget in more detail. The resolution before you adopts the entire $386.5 million budget for 2014, including $140.8 million for the general fund operating budget. It also adopts the 2014 through 2018 capital program, which is projected to invest around $429 million in public infrastructure and other capital improvements and equipment over the next 5 years. The August monthly financial report that was presented this afternoon outlined the strong economy, and it certainly solidifies a couple of priorities within the budget of staying ahead of growth and continuing to enhance the quality of life for our citizens while maintaining the city's strong financial position. With that introduction, I will stand aside and be prepared for questions.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Folks, this is a second reading. This is an opportunity for you to engage the council. We would ask you to come forward, keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And if any of them are repetitive in nature, and what I mean by that is that if there's a citizen or a neighbor who's already spoken very eloquently in regards to that topic, we'd ask that you maybe hold your comments or speak on another topic involving that particular item. But again, welcome. Would anybody want to speak to the council? Welcome.
Tim Stenga. Wasn't able to come to any of the meetings because normally people work from 4 to 5. And wasn't able to watch Channel 16 either. I guess what I want to do is I want to address some of the stuff that I do know what's in the budget. One, we want to add 5 parks to the city. I wish what we'd do is probably go to some of the parks that aren't used very often, and maybe ask the neighborhood how we can either dress up the park or make it more user-friendly so we can get people to use all the parks and not just very seldom. The tax on property tax going up 2.1%. You know, the city's good at giving everybody TIFs to build downtown and to do stuff. I just think the citizens of Sioux Falls should get a TIF of 2.1%. The five people that we're going to hire for the health department, if it isn't working, I've been to a lot of these meetings and I haven't heard anybody state that it hasn't been working. And smaller government's better for the community than bigger government. And I would suggest, leaving it the way it is, because if it works, it must not be bad on what's happening. Some of the other stuff, I always thought the pavilion was supposed to stand on its own and to be able to start paying itself and doing stuff. I just don't think that we need to give the pavilion the money they need to, if I'm correct, it was for elevators or whatever? But I guess the thing is, you go outside these walls and you ask people about the budget, the city budget, and not a single person can tell you what's in the budget. Not a single person can even tell you that, wow, there is a budget. So I'm hoping that next time we come up with a budget, that every citizen in Sioux Falls is going to be informed on what's in the budget. And I just don't think it's the right way to go on how the budget is addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Stenga. Would anybody else want to engage the council? Very good. Council, it's in your hands. Councilor Sting, or yes. Councilor, help me. Staggers.
Yes.
It's going to be one long night, Councilor Staggers. And I'm starting with you, my friend.
Yes.
Councilor Staggers.
I just wanted to ask Tom a quick question. It's an easy question, Tom. How much are we what percent are we increasing the budget by this year? For next year, I should say, 2014.
The entire city budget is up about 5.4% for the comprehensive budget. The general fund budget is up, I believe, 5.9%, and that's up. That's on 6% revenue growth. So,
okay. Thank you very much.
Council, I know we have some amendments out there. Let's get going.
Move to approve. Urbanbach.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Urbanbach has made a motion to approve the tonight's item, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Thank you, Councilor Aguilar. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please. No, we're going to approve this? Okay.
Now we'll start with the amendments.
We'll start with the amendments? Let's go.
Okay. Amendment.
Hand them to me. I think we got like 26 of them, so hang on, folks.
Amendment A, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $25,000 from Finance International City County Management Survey.
There has been an amendment made by Councilor Staggers. If there is no second, next amendment.
Amendment B, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Rolfing to amend the transit operating expense budget within the transit fund by adding $200,000 to expand the weekday hours for fixed routes 3, 6, 7, 9, and 10 to 10 o'clock p.m.
Second, Erpenbach.
There has been a motion by Councilor Rolfing to amend the main motion to amend the transit operating budget. It has been seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Rolfing, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This amendment will continue the paratransit service from 8 to 10 o'clock and increase the service to the general public of the bus service on those routes that are indicated, giving us another year to put together a task force that this council has put together to study the process of working with the public-private joint venture, if you will, and seeing if we can get this thing solved in a better manner than just dropping it for year 2014. So I would urge your acceptance and approval of that amendment.
Thank you, Councilor. There has been a motion. It has been seconded. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify what's going to happen here. Right now we have 3 paratransit buses, and now we want to draw them down to 2 paratransit buses and then add 4 regular buses on regular routes. One of the concerns that was expressed is that we're spending too much money on paratransit, we're spending too much money on the bus service, and now we're going to spend even more money, $200,000. That doesn't seem to make sense.
Councilor Staggers, if I could answer that question, we are currently spending $160,000 on the bus service the paratransit service from 8 to 10 o'clock currently. We're going to increase that to $200,000 by running 2 buses and continuing the bus service from on those routes that are indicated on 3, 6, 7, 9, and 10. So for an extra $40,000, we're going to continue giving bus service, which we haven't done in the past, for an extra 2 hours to give people a chance to, we're going to try it, see if that'll increase some bus service at those later hours to get people to and from work, to and from church services, that kind of thing. And the paratransit will be running on 2 buses, not 3, during those hours. And this will give us, again, a chance to, for the committee that is being put together, the council has indicated, to study this a little bit more. This is one of the things that brings people with our medical service and things to Sioux Falls to retire, because of our good medical service and their ability to get to doctors and other things around this city that they don't have a chance to do in other cities that are our size or smaller. And so we think it's something that is a good amenity that Sioux Falls offers, and we need to take a look at it before we just drop it and don't have a chance to study it.
I guess I would say that you're saying this is only going to cost us $40,000 more. Is that right? Yeah. Then why are we adding $200,000 in your amendment?
As I said, the 160 has been dropped already from the paratransit budget. We're adding that back. We're adding it back in. The current budget that we will approve drops the paratransit from 8 to 10, which is 160. We've pared that back slightly, and then we're going to add that so it nets out at about a 40%. That we're cutting out the 160, adding the 200, so it ends up being a net 40.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. But then also at the same time, with the paratransit, we've been allowing people that aren't even handicapped to use it. Why don't we just simply eliminate that and cut back on the paratransit buses?
I believe that will be one of the things that will be looked at with the study that we'll be doing. Yeah. It's not.
Okay.
Okay.
It's been good discussion. There's been an amendment made. It's been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-1.
Amendment C, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Jamison to amend the 2014 finance budget by transferring $25,000 International City County Management Survey to the 2014 City Council.
I'll second. Karski.
There's been a motion by Councilor Jamison to amend the finance budget by transferring $25,000 for a International City County Management Survey to the 2014 City Council budget, and it has been seconded. Councilor Jamison.
Thank you. This is pretty simple. All we're doing is changing the funding source from the finance budget to the city council budget. The survey is the citizen survey that was done. All we're going to do is have it be paid for by the city council so that we can control it better.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I guess I'm concerned about the seriousness of this survey. The reason I say that is because the questions that are asked are something like, would you like to have more parks? Well, I can tell you what the response is already. Yes, most people in Sioux Falls will say that. Would you like to have more swimming activities? Yeah, most people are going to say it. So basically, this just is $25,000 that we don't need to spend at all, because the responses to these questions are so obvious. So I guess I would recommend, why do we want to have the city council wasting the $25,000 instead of the administration?
There has been an amendment made. It has been seconded. There has been discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-1.
Amendment D, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program by moving project number 14030, Aquatics Facilities Development, $114,000 from 2018 to 2014. Funding for the amendment to come from deleting $401,755 from project number 14012, Lion Park improvements in 2014.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program by moving a number of items, and it has been seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. In 2014, in our capital improvement budget, we have down some money for an indoor pool. Now, we don't know whether that's going to happen or not because we have the vote April 8th of next year for the citizens to decide. But having said that, we have money in the budget right here, but we also have $114,000 going to be spent 4 years later in 2018. And the $114,000 is for a UV disinfection system. It's to make the swimming safer. And so why do we want to wait till 2018 to have a UV disinfection system? Let's put it in 2014 with the regular budget for the indoor pool.
Councilor Staggers, did you want that question answered, or you're just making a rhetorical comment?
That's a rhetorical question,
okay,
yes.
Thank you.
I think everybody knows the answer.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Rolfing?
Councilor Staggers, could you ask me why we need to delete $401,755 from one project to get $114,000?
Yeah, we had to come up with some money, and that was a good project to delete.
But that's almost four times the amount of money needed.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do?
We don't need the $401,755 for Lion Park improvements.
So
go by Lion Park and take a look.
In essence, you're killing the improvements on Lions Park and improving the what you're saying is improving the aquatics facility at the same time.
For the kids, that's exactly right.
Okay. Thank
Councilor
you.
Entenmann?
Yeah, I have a question for Don Kearney, if I might. Director
Don,
Kearney.
would you come forward, please?
Don Kearney with Parks and Rec.
Can you speak a little bit? Councilor Staggers posed a rhetorical question concerning the safety equipment that we need for. Can you answer?
Yeah, I would characterize it as a supplemental disinfection system. I don't believe it necessarily creates any additional safety. We're not concerned about safety of the water quality at our aquatic facilities with disinfection at all. But what this does, it's a new technology that's out there that provides a supplemental disinfection above and beyond what the chlorine already does for our pool water. And in light of the new technology out there, we thought we would take advantage of that by having supplemental disinfection above and beyond the chlorine. And we felt like it was logical to start with our newest facilities first, realizing that other facilities eventually are going to be replaced and include the new UV disinfection system as well.
And when is this planned to be installed again, this UV system?
2018.
2018?
Correct.
Why wait till 2018?
Well, typically when we have a new program, we try to maintain the integrity of our earlier years in our 5-year capital program, and so typically a new program would come in on that out year.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Karski.
Director Carney, if you'd speak to the Lion Park improvements, the $400,000 that would be removed from there, what kind of improvements specifically do you know that we're talking about at Lion Park?
You bet. We spent a considerable amount of time working with the neighborhood in that Lion Park area and had a series of several meetings with them to identify improvements for Lion Park. It's a park that was slated for some renovations, and through the collaboration with the neighborhood, we came up with a plan to essentially renovate Lion Park, much like we did with McKinnon Park, for example, several years ago.
If I could, Mayor. Earlier, we heard from a concerned citizen about talking to the neighbors about increasing usage at parks. Is that what we did here then?
Certainly, I think we wanted to tailor the improvements that we were planning to make in 2014 to the needs of the residents in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Jamieson.
I need to excuse myself on this vote.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Don, in regard to the UV disinfection system, in your justification for the system, you also mentioned, too, that it's going to be important in extending the life of the pool. And also, there's going to be less chlorine used, less cost. Is that correct?
Yeah, it certainly has additional benefits. One of the things that that UV light does is it provides some additional disinfection above and beyond what chlorine does, and so it's just, again, it's a supplemental system. I don't want to get into a long dissertation of how we super chlorinate pools when we have fecal accidents and things like that, but it certainly does enhance it, and that's obviously why we've recommended it in the capital plan.
Councilor Aguilar, welcome.
Don, is this for one pool or for all the pools, the 114,000?
Just for one, primarily because, again, as part of our aquatic facility master plan, we'll be phasing out other pools and building new.
So have you designated the pool that it was intended for?
Yes, we identified Drake Springs as our newest facility.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Don, could you go back to Lions Park and, you said you talked to the neighbors and that. What type of improvements are you looking on doing at that park?
One of the things that we plan to do is to open up the views into the park. I think that as a general rule, there was some concern about sight lines, both from visitors in the park, but also if the police department happens to be driving by, we're going to grade down the hill along 14th Street. We plan to improve the ADA accessibility, provide ADA accessible stalls on Phillips to provide better accessibility. We want to also do some interpretation of the Lion House that used to sit there and the footings that remain there. And so there's some historical elements as well as some landscaping features and irrigation.
The Lion's House.
Yeah, it predates me, but as the history of it is that there used to be a lion, the Lion's family, the house used to sit in Lions Park. And so when that was removed, there were some old foundations and footings as remnants that are still within the park that we'd like to interpret.
Thank you.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Don, the Lions Park was scheduled for 2014, and that's the reason we took the funding from Lions Park so we could have the UV disinfection for 2014. But I guess my question is, this is not a project that has to be done 2014 can be done in 2015 or 16. Is that fair to say?
That is correct, but that's not what we've suggested to the neighborhood as to the timing of the improvements.
Well, Council, very good discussion. There has been an amendment made recommended. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Entman?
This is the vote, excuse me. Could I have a clarification on this,
Yes,
please?
this is a motion to amend the main motion. And what we're doing is we're moving project number 14030, Aquatics Facilities Development. It's $114,000 from the year 2018 up to 2014. And then the funding for the amendment will come from deleting $401,755 from project number 14012, which were the Lion Park improvements scheduled for 2014.
Thank you. No.
Thank you.
Councilmember Erpenbach?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That is failed 1-6.
Amendment E, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund revenue budget by deleting $1,020,647 of property tax increase, 2.1% CPI adjustment pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 101335.
Second for conversation.
There's been a motion made to amend the main motion by amending the 2014 revenue budget by deleting $1,020,647 of the property tax increase. It has been seconded. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. I remember the previous 8 years I was on the Sioux Falls City Council, and now a couple years I've been on the council again. The City Council, I think maybe for 1 year, always passed a property tax increase. And one of the interesting things about passing this property tax increase, there's really no justification given for it. It's just kind of like, well, this is kind of covers inflation and we've got to pass it. There's no projects that are developed from the property tax increase or anything like that at all. It's just one of these regular property tax increases that we have every year. Now, I know some people are always concerned about, does the city have enough money? Hey, the city of Sioux Falls is very wealthy, and that's something we have to keep in mind. And in keeping in mind the city of Sioux Falls is wealthy, we also have to keep in mind we have citizens out there who are suffering. And these are citizens that are on fixed income, especially Social Security. You know, when you encounter somebody that is living in a small house and they tell you they're having a difficult time paying their property taxes, I mean, we ought to take those people into consideration. We haven't done that at all. We haven't. Not having a property tax increase would be beneficial for everybody in Sioux Falls. But unfortunately, Sioux Falls spends a lot of time with special interest groups, providing money for special interest groups. This year, hey, we have a perfect opportunity not to have a property tax increase because we heard during the informational today the city is going to receive a $10 million check from the federal government as compensation for building the levees. So there's no reason in the world why we cannot have a situation here of no property tax increase this year.
Councilor Staggers, thank you. There has been an amendment made. It has been seconded. There has been discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
No.
Erpenbach? Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7.
Amendment F, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $200,000 from engineering corridor studies.
That motion has died for a second.
Amendment G, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $160,000 from the economic development downtown Sioux Falls.
That motion has died for a second.
Amendment H, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $33,600 for Library Security Patrol, Maine.
That motion has died for a second.
Amendment I, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councillor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $136,000 for Park Recreation Sioux Falls YMCA Middle School program.
Second Anderson, I'd like a further explanation on this program.
There's been a motion to amend the main motion to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $136,000 for Park Recreation / the YMCA Middle School program, and it has been seconded. Councilor Staggers?
Yes. This is basically an after-school program. And because it is an after-school program, the question has to arise, why is the city of Sioux Falls doing this? Why isn't the school district doing this? Especially this year when the school district is saying, hey, we've got to spend down our reserves. Well, I agree. They should spend down the reserves and pay for this program instead of the city of Sioux Falls.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Entman?
Director Kearney? In response to, I think the question that Councilor Staggers put forward was a good question, and maybe you can explain a little bit about why we are invested in this program, please.
Well, I can certainly start it out and also let the council know and the community know that Mike Julik, the CEO of the YMCA, is here as well to help explain it in further detail. But basically, it's our support for the middle school after-school program at the middle schools in Sioux Falls. And the reason why we support the program is because we have our after-school programs at our community centers for the elementary age groups, but we do not have a program for the middle school age group. And so it might be good just for Mike to come up and talk about how that program works.
Councilor, please. Yes. Would you come forward, please? Would you mind explaining the, first of all, introduce yourself to the people of our town, and then just explaining what this program's about?
Mike Julik, I'm CEO of the YMCA, and first of all, let me say that it's been a nice partnership to date with the city in providing this program. It's very valuable funding because the kids that take part in this program, because of city funding and because of fundraising that the Y does, it's offered free to the children. There is no fee to participate. And it's held at all 5 of the public middle schools. When funding was down one year, not due to the city, but other sources of funding, we did implement a fee-based program, and what we saw was the decrease in enrollment was about in half. Because what happens is the kids that can't afford a program, they certainly don't come when there's a fee associated. And so the importance of the program, you know, there's many different things that we can talk about what it does for the kids. But in South Dakota After School Partnership publication, it talks about saving money. And if I can make one comment that was found in that study, and this is from the Rose Institute of Claremont McKenna College. Funding after-school programs is a smart long-term investment for our communities and our state. Every dollar invested in after-school programs saves taxpayers approximately $3 in reduced crime and welfare cost. And I can tell you that the kids that participate in that program are well mentored, they're well taken care of, they're fed, and that 3:30 to 5:30 time right after school is important.
Thanks, Mike. Councilor?
Yeah, I don't think anybody is against an after-school program. The question here is, why is the city of Sioux Falls doing this when this seems like it's more of a function of the school district? Have you gone to the school district requesting money?
The school district provides their facilities at no cost.
Well, I'm glad they do, but why can't they pay for the $136,000 instead of us?
Well, there's multiple funding sources for this program, again, so that it's offered free for the children. And the Y takes the responsibility of the staffing and the program development, and we ask for support from various entities, including the city, to help us put this program on.
Councilor Rolfe?
Yes. With the remodeling that's going on down there, will you have sufficient room at the Y then to, is this downtown also, isn't it?
No, these programs are held directly at the 5 public middle schools so that the children leave their classes, they come to our program that we staff right there at the school, and then we provide them transportation home.
Okay, super, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Karski.
Curious, what is the total cost of this program? Are we funding it all, or?
No, the raw cost of the program is roughly $277,000 annually.
Where's the other money coming from? The Y, or you had mentioned multiple funding sources?
Yeah, we get a 21st Century grant. We have United Way funding, and then the Y does a fundraiser golf event every year.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Not a question, just a
Sure.
statement. As a kid, I was involved in a lot of Y programs. That probably kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Thank you.
And I wanted to find out more about what was happening here, and I thank you for the information, but I do encourage the council to support this.
Well, Council, thank you. There has been good discussion on this item. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7.
Amendment J, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 Entertainment Tax Fund expense budget by deleting $347,782 for the Washington Pavilion operating support.
That motion has died for a second.
Amendment K, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $334,048 Zoo, Delbridge Museum Zoo operating agreement.
That motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment L, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program, project number 14018, River Greenway Improvements, by deleting $900,000 in 2017 for a pedestrian bridge.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion made to amend the capital improvement program, project number 14018, River Greenway Improvements, by deleting $900,000 in 2017 for a pedestrian bridge, and it has been seconded. Councilor Staggers?
Yes, project number 14018, dealing with the River Greenway improvements, was very vague in what they wanted to do. Eventually, we found out that they wanted to maybe have $900,000 in 2017 for a pedestrian bridge. In the past, we've dealt with pedestrian bridges before, and I think at least until we get clear direction here in what they want to do with this River Greenway improvement, that we delete the $900,000.
Don, would you mind helping Councilor Staggers and the council and the people of Sioux Falls understand what is this $900,000 for in 2017?
Well, it's part of a larger project that we identified for the third phase of the River Greenway development. One of the things that we've tried to do is make sure that whatever we do along the River Greenway, it's in tandem with private redevelopment. And until we've identified that project, exactly where that would go, we don't know whether it would include a bridge or not. And as of right now, the project has not been identified, but we know that we want to continue to build out the River Greenway in the downtown.
So this is for budgeting purposes, strictly just planning?
Correct.
Very good. Councilor Staggers, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and we just want to make sure, Don, that we don't have a bridge in the future. That's the reason we have this amendment here for $900,000, deleting it.
Very good. Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Don, when you say you're talking about for planning, is the planning to remove the old railroad bridge that used to be next to the parking ramp?
No, that is not currently in the plan to remove the old railroad bridge. It's just what we have in the capital program is an allocation of what we think the next phase will potentially cost. Once we identify where that next phase, phase 3, will be along the River Greenway, we'll update our estimates and put a more detailed cost estimate together at that time.
Don, I think what Councilor Anderson Jr. is asking is the bridge specifically. Any thoughts on the bridge? Where's it going? If you're not removing one, are you adding one? Is that appropriate, Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Not only that, but I would like to hear the plan for that old railroad bridge. I think the council spoke quite clearly a few years ago when we were talking about removing that during the discussion of CNA and the Hilton Hotel.
Very good.
So I guess
Very good.
I'm sort of watching that to see how we
Very good.
try to develop that.
So Don, any plans to remove that bridge? You answered no. Any additional comments, please?
Yeah, just to answer your question, Councilmember Anderson, is that we do have some rehab dollars in this Phase 2 project that we're working on in collaboration with Lloyd, who also providing some private dollars to replace the decking, to provide a new accessible ramp on the west side of that bridge, so that once the hotel is completed, we can open up that bridge for public use.
Please, Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I guess the one thing, as we talk about the history of downtown, you know, one of those things is that the downtown used to be a rail yard, and that this bridge actually tells that history, and it is still a very solid, structurally well-built bridge, and I hope that we try to continue keeping that there as long as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I just have a question for clarification of Tom Huber, please.
Tom, would you come forward, please? Thank you.
I've been watching city government for a long time and watching CIP conversations for a long time, and never before have I seen where the council has actually approved beyond the next year for CIP. It seems like everything after 2015 and beyond is just kind of placeholders. These are ideas. This is kind of the plan, but we're going to look at it, and next year we'll look at 2015 and we'll make a final vote. Yes? Am I missing something in this conversation? We seem to be messing with things way down the line that aren't.
That is correct.
We're going to change anyway.
Tonight, you will only appropriate the money in 2014 and budget the money in 2014. The 2014 to 2018 capital plan, the 15th or 18th, those are a plan for planning purposes and forecasting purposes of what's coming ahead of us.
So we can talk a lot about a bridge for 2017 in the years to come. Thank
Correct.
you. Thank you.
Well, Council, there has been good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Antoman?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jameson?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7.
Amendment M. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program, project number 14038 West Side Dog Park, by deleting $497,000 in 2015, and project number 14042 East Side Dog Park, by deleting $497,000 in 2015.
Second.
There's been a motion to amend this main motion to amend the CIP by taking the West Side Dog Park, deleting that in 15, and the East Side Dog Park by deleting that in 15. Councilor Staggers?
Yes. When I talk to people about spending $1 million on 2 dog parks, they feel that, hey, we could spend $1 million on something a lot better than dog parks. Coupled with the fact that this is an artificially low number, too, $497,000, because we're going to be putting it on city land. We're not even including the cost of the city land, so it's much more than $1 million. So, you know, once again, $1 million, you know, I think should be spent on, you know, human beings, I guess, instead of dogs. And coupled with the fact that most people have yards. They can run their dogs in their own yards instead of having everybody in the city of Sioux Falls paying $1 million for dog parks.
Yes, Councilor Jameson.
I wanted to add that the $1 million on dog parks are kind of coming to the threshold of decisions by the council. Do we have other needs for this money? Do we have other places we could invest this money to improve the quality of life and for people in our community? I think we do. But we all think probably as well that it'd be good to have some dog parks because people want them.
No, I don't.
Some people want them. I'm not even a dog lover so much, but I heard about it. People like these dog parks. But it's a signal that we're willing to spend $1 million. Now, I know this is 15, and it isn't in the books, but it's part of a planning process. And I think if this amendment should fail tonight, as long as we still look forward in the future that we say, you know what, before we go and build these 2 dog parks, maybe we ought to cover some other things that are a deficit in our community. Get them covered, and then move on to do a dog park. But I'm okay with funding them down the road as a big scheme of things, but I just have a problem with this, and that's why I seconded the motion. Spending $1 million on dog parks sends a bad message to a lot of people in our community who are in a hurtful state and aren't doing so well, but yet we're willing to spend $1 million on that and not on other things. So I'm seconding the amendment just so that the discussion continues.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I am a dog fan, but I also agree that $500,000 for a dog park is questionable. And I hope that the council will keep this, whether it passes or fails this amendment, I hope that the council will keep this on our radar. And maybe even land use could take a look at this and study exactly what we're going to be doing at these two parks. I know that the West Side Park, we were talking restroom, but I guess there's other usage for that park also. So having the same amount for the East Side Dog Park, I really question exactly where those funds are going to go and how this park is going to be developed. I don't think we need Taj Mahal dog parks.
Well, Council, thank you. Very good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Entenmann?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
Yes.
No. That has failed.
Amendment N. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 14029, Veterans Park Interpretive Center, by deleting $439,420 in 2018.
That motion has failed for lack of second. And Tamara, if I could, just for the record, so the folks at Sioux Falls know, Amendment M that failed by a vote of 5 noes, 4 yeses. Tamara?
Amendment 0. A motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 14049, McKinnon Park Band Shell, by deleting $80,000 in 2018.
That motion has failed for lack of a second.
Amendment P. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 13001, Arena Building Improvements, by deleting $833,785 in 2015 for an HVAC system, chiller replacement, and miscellaneous electrical improvements, $625,000 in 2018 for the replacement of lower seats and risers, replace arena with event center after department, and replace arena with event center under the project title.
That motion has failed for lack of a second.
Amendment Q, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 13007, Entertainment Venues, Washington Pavilion, by deleting $160,000 in 2016 and $160,000 in 2018 for escalators.
That motion has failed for lack of a second.
Amendment R, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 13009, Cinedome Seat Refurbishment, by deleting $86,000 in 2014.
That motion has failed for lack of a second.
Amendment S, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program Project Number 17001, Core Facade Revitalization, by deleting $200,000 in 2014, $200,000 in 2015, $250,000 in 2016, $250,000 in 2017, and $250,000 in 2018 for the Core Facade Revitalization Program.
That motion has failed for lack of a second.
Amendment T, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the Capital Improvement Program, project number 22003, citywide water main replacement, by deleting $123,500 in 2014, $150,000 in 2015, $150,000 in 2016, $170,000 in 2017, and $170,000 in 2018 from funding sources sales tax.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion made to amend the capital improvement program by taking project number 22003, the citywide water replacement program, and deleting $123,500 in 2014, $150,000 in 15, 16, and $170,000 in 17 and 18, with the funding source being sales tax. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, the only reason I'm doing this amendment is because we are constantly told by department heads, especially with enterprises, that they only use enterprise money. Well, here it's obvious they're not just using enterprise money, which I agree. I think they should be using enterprise money. What they're also using is some sales tax money, and we don't want that to happen because they have already said we're going to use enterprise money and no tax money, but we're using it right here. So this is eliminating tax money and having it, the capital improvement project rely exclusively on enterprise funds.
Councilor Entenmann.
I'd like to ask Director Cotter to come up, please.
Director Cotter, please.
Mark, it is a great question by Councilor Staggers, and I guess I'd like to have your insight into this, why this is in here this way.
Certainly. We've for a long time have looked at our street needs, and as we get to a point where we've evaluated a street to repair, that we also look at the water mains, the sanitary sewer system, and make those respective repairs. We've actually accelerated our water main replacement program. We've put in an additional $500,000 each year so we can actually go out and fix more aging mains. So if you can imagine, half the street normally has to be excavated to excavate down, replace a water main, and then gets backfilled and the surfacing restored. So we can make sure that the other half of the street is on the same life cycle on that pavement as the area above the water main. Sales tax is paying for the other side of the street. So the water main funds, for this example, is paying for the street above the water main, and then we've plugged in sales tax to actually address the other side of the street.
Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Mark, but the reason, of course, we're having the other half of the street fixed is because of the water main issue. So it would seem to me that, hey, the primary reason for this project in the street is because of the water main, and therefore the water enterprise should be paying for this, because we wouldn't have to be worried about the other half of the street if it wasn't for the water. They should pay for it.
Well, I think it is important when we're maintaining streets that we don't want half the street as being a brand new life street and the other side could be 15 years old. We think it's good money spent to actually improve the entire street, but I wouldn't recommend to put it on the water customers to improve the entire street when really the only need to excavate that pavement on half the street was for the water main. Sales tax really has a duty to fix the other side, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yes.
If we didn't use the sales tax money, would we have to raise water fees?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Staggers.
Mark, we've been raising water fees quite a bit already, so we have a lot in reserve. We could have that take care of the sales tax very easily. Yes, Pa? I mean, isn't that correct?
I disagree. So I really think that, honestly, when it comes back, even when we go to the state to apply for an SRF loan, the state only provides you funding through that loan for the amount of pavement that you disturb to fix that respective utility. We can't go to the, for example, we can't go to the state of South Dakota and get an SRF loan on the clean water, on the drinking water side, to replace a water main and then also say we'd like to replace the entire street. they don't allow for that. We have the same philosophy. Whatever is necessary to excavate down and replace that water main, water fees should fund that pavement replacement. It just makes, we think, good pavement management sense to update the other side of the street while we're there. But ultimately, that's more of a general services approach, we feel, and that's why sales tax is a better fit. Okay.
Well, very good discussion. Thank you, councilors, and thanks, Mark. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entenmann?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7.
Amendment U. A motion to amend the main motion is made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program by moving project number 13004, Washington Pavilion building improvements, by deleting $800,000 in 2015, $1,300,000 in 2016, and $100,000 in 2017.
That motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment V. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by reclassifying the 5 full-time health department personnel expense to professional services.
That motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment W. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program by moving project number 14040 Spencer Park improvements by deleting $15,000 in 2014 and $98,000 in 2015.
That motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment X. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program by moving project number 14003 Falls Park Development by deleting $1,056,000 in 2015 and $750,000 in 2016.
The motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment Y. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the capital improvement program project number 23014 Dakota Avenue from Russell Street to 3rd Street by deleting $252,000 in 2016, $140,000 in 2017, $140,000 in 2018 from funding sources sales tax.
That motion has died for lack of a second.
Amendment Z. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $100,000 from the Economic Development Incentive Match Program.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion made by Councilor Staggers to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by deleting $100,000 from the Economic Development Incentive Match Program. It has been seconded. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. We were trying to figure out, when I say we, our staff at the City Council, about what this $100,000 is. And it's been determined that it's with Sioux Falls Development Foundation and Slater Bars here, and if he could explain what that's about. Because right now, I think we give $175,000 to the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. If you could explain this $100,000.
Councilor Staggers, would you mind if Darren started and then we'll go to Slater?
Okay.
I think that's probably more appropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. Just briefly, this $100,000 amount is part of the annual contract for service amount that we have with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation to perform economic development services on behalf of the city. The total amount in that contract is $275,000 annually. That amount constitutes a 0% increase over the current year of 2013, and that constitutes also a 0% increase over the 2012 amount. The terms associated with the annual agreement we have with the Development Foundation and these dollars, those annual agreements are approved and have been approved by this council, along with these dollar amounts in 2012, 2013, and now again the same amount in 2014. But we would be happy to have a chance to elaborate a little bit upon this program. It is one of the real success stories in terms of what we've been able to do in economic development the last couple of years, and I'll ask Slater Barr to come up and talk about that.
If I could just ask you then, how long have we been doing the 100,000? We've been doing the 175,000 for some time, but the 100,000, how long has that been going on?
This amount was increased in the 2012 budget.
2012 budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barr, would you mind coming forward? Just introducing yourself, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Slater Barr, Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Economic development is a brutally competitive business. There are 5,000 economic development organizations in the United States alone, and all of them are desperately fighting to try to attract jobs and corporations to their communities. This is an area that we have long discussed that we felt was kind of a missing tool in the toolbox, some dollars that could be used for appropriate projects and applied in ways that would assist the project, but coming to the community, but at the same time, would be used in a way so that they were protected in some way. This is some dollars that have been provided, and we earmark them every year, and we use them for projects in order to apply a small amount to a project that ultimately is a net gain to the community. Since we've established this program, we have used it in the Twin City Fan project, which produced 35 FTEs, is what that's projected to ultimately reach. Glanbia Nutritionals, the building that's under construction right now. We've also are using it for the USD Research Park planning for the new park that is underway adjacent to the Gear Center. And, so we have used it on a variety of projects. Ultimately, these are projects that certainly are producing more in the way of tax revenues for the community than we are collecting from them.
Councilor Staggers?
Yeah, so this is designed to help encourage businesses to come to Sioux Falls. But I guess I'm surprised, $100,000 from the city to do that doesn't sound like really much money to encourage businesses to come to Sioux Falls. Are you using other monies too to encourage businesses to come to Sioux Falls other than just $100,000?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to the dollars that, these dollars that are earmarked, matches are provided for those dollars in some fashion. So that may be from the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. It could be in the reduction of a land price. It could be an outright cash incentive. It could be coming from other sources like Forward Sioux Falls. But we certainly apply some other discretionary funds to those dollars as well. But that's in addition to a whole cadre of tax incentives that are available at the state level, at the local level. And so ultimately you end up packaging a project to apply the incentives that are necessary to recruit the project to the community, but at the same time you're keeping an eye towards them to try to make sure that the incentives are necessary, that the incentives are protected if possible. So we look, for example, to apply resources in areas that could remain in the community. Areas such as, workforce training or in a facility, things that even if a company were to leave your community, then those assets are left behind and our people in infrastructure are in building. Those are what we try to do. We can't always do it, but we try to make wise use of these funds and use them on a very limited basis to kind of close the deal.
Thank you.
Well, Council, very good discussion again, as there has been all night. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Erbenbach.
the clerk, I would ask the clerk to read the next amendment, please.
Amendment AA, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Erpenbach to amend the capital improvement program by adding $1,300,000 to project number 055011 in 2014, City County Archive Building. Funding for the amendment to come from project number 14030 Aquatic Facilities Development by deleting $1,300,000 in 2014. The justification shall read as follows. Appropriation shall be contingent on the sale of 20 acres of the 24.97 acres less additional acres necessary for streets, drainage, or any other public improvements necessary for construction of the City County Archive Building.
Second.
There has been a motion made to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget.
It's capital improvement.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll start over. There's been a motion made to amend the capital improvement plan by adding $1.3 million in 2014 for the City County Archive Building. The funding for the amendment will come from the Aquatics Facilities Development by deleting $1.3 million in 2014. Justification shall read as follows. Appropriation shall be contingent on the sale of 20 acres of the 24.97 acres less additional acres necessary for streets, drainage, or any other public improvements necessary for construction of the City County Archive Building. Councilor Erbenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The majority of council members support the city's 1/3 participation in the construction of the proposed Museum Archive Center on land donated by the Hall family at the corner of West Point Avenue and North 54th Street. We have seen plans for a functional, practical, pared-down version of a storage facility that accomplishes several goals. First and foremost, we must act now to preserve the iconic Old Courthouse Museum. That building is more than 100 years old and has been pushed beyond its limits by being used as a warehouse for our growing museum collection. It has been shored up, but continues to deteriorate under the storage weight it was not designed to hold. Converting it to a proper warehouse would ruin its historic character and value. Second, public safety. Thousands of pounds of artifacts are stored in every nook and cranny, from basement to attic, in both the Old Courthouse Museum and the city-owned Pettigrew Home and Museum. Visitors are not in immediate danger, but this form of storage is not practical and is not a solution for our growing problem. Finally, the proposed archive facility will provide unprecedented public access to this amazing collection of photos, antiques, and other artifacts. Given today's storage constraints, the public has very restricted, if any, access to the material they own through the joint agreement for the Siouxland Heritage Museums between the City of Sioux Falls and the County of Minnehaha. We have all heard the argument that the city and county should simply rent cold storage somewhere. The proposed budget for that idea would, over 10 years, pay off a bond if we were to borrow our share of the costs of building the new building. My friends, we don't have to bond and we don't have to rent. We also have heard that the archive facility could be first in line for a possible 2013 capital surplus that might be available in the spring of 2014. I would respectfully suggest that a better choice for that capital surplus, and one that I will defend, would be the aquatics facility development line item. We all know that the next construction project in the aquatics facilities development list is scheduled for citywide vote on the April 2014 ballot. The city's capital surplus has averaged $2.7 million per year over the last 4 years. Finance staff always reports that surplus to council in March or before, and that report would come long before that April 2014 citywide election, still allowing us plenty of time to restore funding to the aquatics line item should council choose to do so. The public and city and county officials have known for more than a decade that the museum storage facility is a critical need. It is up to us on this council today to make this project happen in 2014. I thank you all for your support of this amendment.
Councilor Karski.
Councilor Erpenbach, a question for you. I appreciate the way you wrote this. My only concern, that I have is the contingency, and I'm wondering if you would consider amending your amendment so that the contingency reads that the 20 acres generate at least $1.3 million.
I would consider that a friendly amendment.
Excuse me?
I would consider that a friendly amendment.
Okay. I would make that amendment that we include that then that the contingency generate at least $1.3 million in sales money.
I'll second that.
It was a friendly amendment, so do we have to second that? Or do I have to just come back to you, Counselor, and have you
It needs
approve
to
it?
have a second, and you have to, no.
Okay, very good. There has been a friendly amendment. It's been made by Counselor Karski, seconded by Counselor Rolfing. Counselor Erpenbach is confident in its verbiage. And so I'm going to go.
I think we'll massage the verbiage. I think our understanding is that we're going to require that the sale of that, it's at least 20 acres-ish, depending on drainage, whatever. It has to make at least 1.3 million. We expect that it's going to make more than that. But we won't turn this money over until that land is sold at least for 1.3 million. That's what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm asking for, correct.
And, yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. So is that David, is that an amendment to the amendment?
Right.
Okay.
That's allowed.
I apologize, Mayor. It's pretty rare we have that, but it is allowed.
Okay. So do we vote on the amendment first?
Yes.
David?
I believe so.
Councilor Aguilar is saying yes.
Yes.
I hear. Thank you. Well, very good. Any further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
We now have an we have an amended amendment. Any discussion on the amended amendment? A roll call vote, please.
If I could.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
Oh, Councilor
In
Staggers.
regard to her original amendment, that's what we're going to be voting on, and I'm going to vote in favor of it. The primary reason I'm voting in favor of it is because a number of years ago I took a tour of the courthouse museum and saw the storage, and I guess maybe I disagree a little bit with Councilor Erpenbach. I think there's some danger involved, and we have to do something about it. And there are a number of different things we could probably do, but this is one good alternative, and so I'm supporting this.
Very good. We have an amended amendment. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
Okay, Mayor, we have two more amendments, but I'll need my sheet back,
Okay.
please. Thank you. Amendment AB, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilor Jamison to amend the 2014 General Fund expense budget by adding $97,500 to the Health Department Professional Services Consultants for an independent consultant to assist with an ambulance service request for proposal, RFP, process. Funds will come from the museum annual storage expense of $97,500.
Second.
There's been a motion to amend the 2014 general fund expense budget by adding $97,500 to the health department for professional services / consultants for an independent consultant to assist with the ambulance service request or an RFP process. The funds will come from the museum annual storage expense of $97,500. Councilor Jamison.
Thank you. This is really a placeholder on the dollar amount. We're not exactly sure what the amount will be, but we know it'll be somewhere close. During the audit of the ambulance service in Sioux Falls, we learned that the contract was ending in 2015, and we needed to prepare ourselves for that change, and the idea of using an RFP to request proposals for other providers was the smart thing to do. Unfortunately, there wasn't any funds allocated to help that process, so this provides funding to make sure that RFP gets handled appropriately.
There has been a motion. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
The last amendment, Amendment AC. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councillor Staggers to amend the title by adding increasing property taxes after the word appropriations and before the word and. The amended title shall read, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls providing, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota providing appropriations, increasing property taxes and the means of financing for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion made to amend the title by adding increasing property taxes after the word appropriations and before the word and. The amended title shall read, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota providing appropriations, comma, increasing property taxes and the means of financing for the fiscal year ending December 13th, 2014. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, the title right now does not say anything about increasing property taxes, which is in the body of the ordinance. And so I think it's for purposes of transparency, it's a good idea, especially when we talk about increasing property taxes, to put it in the title so people will be aware of that. That's all this does.
Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Oh, wait. There was a second by Councilor Anderson, Jr. That's why we discussed
I
it.
just wanted a further explanation on it. It was confusing.
Good job, though. Thank you, team. Hang in there.
If I could also say just one other quick thing, too.
If you wouldn't mind, we did have a roll call vote. We asked for a roll call vote, Councilor Staggers, and the only reason we continued the discussion was because folks were asking if there was a second. There was a second, so a roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Entenmann?
No.
Erpenbach? No. Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
That has failed 1-7. Well, Council, very, very good discussion, very productive. I know the City of Sioux Falls appreciates it. We now have an amended main motion. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Staggers.
Yes, I guess I'm a little concerned about some of the discussion or lack of discussion tonight, especially over this last amendment. I mean, it's just transparency. All it is just adding to the title, let people know there's a property tax increase. In the state legislature, this would never be allowed to conceal a tax increase. In the state legislature, every tax increase has to be a separate law. Here, we're concealing this. There's no reason in the world why we could not have had this in the title. Also, at the same time, I think this evening we can see by a number of the amendments that have been presented that the City of Sioux Falls is going to be spending a lot of money. Once again, the City of Sioux Falls is a very wealthy community, and we're not necessarily always spending the money on all the citizens. We spend a lot of money on special interest groups. The idea of not having a property tax increase to benefit everybody, we should have done that. That's a no-brainer, but we didn't. So I'm just very disheartened here, I guess, by this budget that we have here this evening.
Very good. Thanks so much, Council. We have an amended main motion that we're voting on. There were a number of amendments that were discussed in an open, transparent way. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
No.
That is passed 6-2. Item 18.
Item 18 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing appropriations and the means of financing for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014.
Tom Huber again with the Finance Office. This ordinance would appropriate those funds which are legally required to be appropriated, primarily the tax-supported funds, including the general fund and the sales and use tax fund, and will establish the property tax levy. The ordinance is impacted, I believe, by amendments B, C, AA, and BB, and so will need to be amended to reflect that.
Thanks, Tom. Folks, this is a second reading. You do have another opportunity to engage the council if anybody is interested. Council, I'll leave it in your hands.
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Entenmann.
Thank you, Councilor Erpenbach. Thank you, Councilor Entenmann. There's been a motion made. It has been seconded. Is there any? Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Don't we need to add amendments? Karski has them. I'm sorry.
Councilor Karski's got an amendment.
To amend the main motion to reflect changes to the resolution adopting the budget for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and the 2014 to 2018 capital program.
Councilor Rolfing, would you want to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you so much. There's been a motion to amend the main motion to reflect changes to the resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31, the year 2014, and the 2014 through 2018 capital program. It was made by Councilor Dean Karski, seconded by Councilor Rex Rolfing. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
This is the vote on the amendment. Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. We
Now-
now have an amended main motion. Council,
Sorry.
a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item 19.
Item 19 is an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations. This is a second reading.
Mr. Cotter, let's go.
Yes, Mark Cotter again with Public Works. Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading, and it's a good news story. It's additional revenues that have come into the city for various areas, and I will again step you through what those respective areas are. All right, Jason, we advance. There's three primary areas. We've collected $725,000 in additional arterial street plating revenue than what we originally forecasted. We've harnessed the strength of 5 government agencies to pave a short section of gravel road right immediately outside the city limits. We've got a new slide to show you on that, to show you why that connectivity was important. And then last, just trying to beautify that segment of road from Benson Road through the downtown on Minnesota Avenue. We've been fortunate that the CVB has provided $25,000 to fund that study. Next slide. This slide again just references what we've collected actual to date. We've talked at length about this in the past, that essentially right after these new plating fees went into effect, we were our development was very stagnant, and those costs are reflective in 09, 10, 11. The actual in 2012 did break $1 million, and year to date we've got a strong final quarter of the year remaining. We've collected $1.13 million year to date. The additional funds above what we've budgeted, we've got some high needs that we'd like to get those dollars put to work on. First and foremost would be to start the design of South Cliff Avenue from 63rd Street through 85th Street. A lot of development out there with the housing, schools, a new clinic going up, and with all the commuter traffic that comes in from Harrisburg, Canton, and Northwest Iowa on a daily basis. That's key for us to get started. There's always extensive right-of-way utility easement work that's important to start. Next slide. Next slide is, again, a recap that we've got a very small section of road that's right outside the city limits that Lincoln County is not responsible to pave. The Harrisburg School actually paid over $125,000 in arterial street plating fee. We did sit down with them and encourage them to help us fund this small section of gravel road, since with their schools right immediately in town, and Councilor Entenmann mentioned the other day, just from the safety of all those commuter traffic between Harrisburg and the new schools. There's 2 townships. Townships primarily don't, by practice, pave roads. They only grade roads, gravel roads, that is. And then the city of Sioux Falls has extensive needs to not only move traffic through and out of our city. If this road's not paved, people, if it's not also adequately maintained, people are just going to take a longer route to ultimately leave Sioux Falls and potentially overload other intersections. Got another slide to show you. Again, this is the top-down plan view of where the new Harrisburg schools are, and the paved road, which is County Highway 106. That is the T road, so that goes to the I-29 to the new T interchange. Next slide. This is the shot of it complete. Chad and his team did put down counters, and already we're seeing a use of 1,600 vehicles per day. We're going to see that number probably go up twofold, maybe 2.5-fold, and just critical for us to have multiple ways for people to come in and out of Sioux Falls. Next slide. We thought this was to kind of spur off our discussion of last week. If you could just direct your eyes to the map, the blue lines are hard surface paved roads today. If you can imagine that area that's circled in red still being yellow, with all the growth and development that's happened immediately north, with the 2 new Harrisburg schools, Delapre Township, Springdale Township, Lincoln County, and the city of Sioux Falls. This is a fairly orphaned piece of road. We also don't grow, our sewer limits don't stop on normal mile grid lines. They follow the lay of the land. And so ultimately we're at the end of our sewer limit line, but we've got a lot of traffic to still manage. And so we've looked at this with harnessing 5 agencies, that it was the right time to do it. We don't do this very often, but once in a while the need really fits. And if you can just imagine, if you don't take that blue road south out of Harrisburg Schools to County Highway, you're essentially going north and over and down, or going all the way up to 229. This gets better use of the T interchange and ultimately just shortens people's commute. One of the things we've heard over and over is make sure you maintain the roads and move more traffic. We think this improvement does that. That's why the city of Sioux Falls did step up and pay half of this roadway. Next slide. Last is the initial renderings for the beautification of Minnesota Avenue from the airport entrance down through Sioux Falls. We're just starting really that review. We've had 1 public meeting. Again, I think it's the right thing to do. That entire Minnesota Avenue corridor is really the reflection of the city of Sioux Falls, and we've had the honor of working with Confluence, a local landscape architecture firm. They're very practical, but they're very they understand what Sioux Falls and South Dakota, what it fits here, and their initial renderings look very good. Next slide. And I'm here to take questions.
Thank you, Mark. This is a second reading. Folks, anyone in the audience want to speak to this? Councilor Karski.
Director Cotter, unless I missed it, I have good understanding where we're spending $128,000, but the $725,000, it just says will be used for arterial street improvements and expansion. I mean, are there any specifics? I mean, $725,000 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I will tell you that the design for Cliff Avenue, which we need to get started on, because that'll be our flagship project for 2015, that design will be a substantial design contract. We'll design essentially from 63rd Street through 85th Street. We've got a lot of roadway access, lane geometrics to work through. We also have a lot of drainage issues to study and work through. That will probably take 2/3 of that amount. And then we've also, Chad managing a number of other projects. They can utilize these funds for simple, like right turn lane at 41st in Minnesota. We're currently designing one that could potentially be earmarked for construction. I know Chad's got a list of priority right-of-way acquisitions that need to be made for specifically the expansion of arterial streets. So it will be utilized for those purposes.
If I may, so that you said 2/3 of it roughly would go for the Cliff Avenue study. That study is going to be done yet this year then, or when will that study be done?
No, it would actually be final design plans of Cliff Avenue from 63rd through 85th, and it'll probably take about an 18-month process.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been under design on 41st Street over by Sertoma to T. Ellis for well over 18 months. So, and we're almost ready to go to market with those plans.
Councilor Staggers?
Yes. Mark, I read someplace that the CVB gave the $25,000 to Public Works. Is that correct or not for this project?
Yes, for the landscape improvement study on Minnesota Avenue. Yes, that's what this that's what this would reflect.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm wondering about an entity like that giving this money to you instead of to the city council or to whoever. I mean,
I think we look at it as a partnership. You know, obviously everything the CVB does, a lot of what they do brings in air travelers into Sioux Falls as they leave the airport and come into the city. That corridor, Minnesota, is certainly a reflection of what their first impressions are. I think they felt it was a good investment. We certainly do as well. It allows us to at least capture what some of those improvements could be phased in and cost them out, and then ultimately we'll turn over to Chad's team and Don Kearney's team from a beautification standpoint and start to phase in those improvements over time.
once again, I guess I'm just kind of surprised that CVB is giving this to a department instead of to the mayor or to the city council or whatever.
Yeah, it's just
It seems odd.
I think it goes back to it's a partnership. Chad just shared that we went forward with the intention of them providing us funding. So we've actually cash flowed their portion. That's why we're about 2/3 through the study. And then ultimately this is them making their commitment to provide it to the city. I wouldn't necessarily say it's specific to Public Works. When we're in the room reviewing those plans, multiple departments are in it. We just happen to do a lot of these corridor studies. And so I wouldn't look at it specifically that it came to Public Works. It really came to the city, community development, planning, parks. We're all in the room when we're starting to look at those concepts and see what really makes sense for the city.
And then just one other quick question here. You mentioned, I think, this evening that you sat down with other governmental entities to deal with the extension of Southwestern Avenue. You called the meeting, the City of Sioux Falls called the meeting. Is that fair to say?
We did, and I will, we initially had the idea, and if we can go back to that slide. I'm sorry, go back to the one with the blue line. Again, just we recognize with all the growth and development we have south of 229 that our best bang for our buck can be to more utilize that T road. And then truly, not only with the school district building one school, they built 2 schools. I personally grew up on a gravel road. I can't imagine having 1,600 vehicles go by that road on almost the first day it opens, and what the condition of that would be. We seen it. Chad, ultimately, we asked Chad to spearhead getting all these groups together. It wasn't easy. A lot of them came to the table initially and said, this is a role. We also said that role, but we ultimately found a way to actually get it done.
And lastly, I guess my primary concern is, of course, this is outside the city limits of Sioux Falls. Do we do this quite often, spend money on roads and streets outside of Sioux Falls?
We don't. We have in the past. It's been some time, but there was a segment of road that was done on 57th Street from Sertoma out to T. Ellis. That was a partnership between Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls. That's been some time back. I can go back, but I think it was probably 15 years. But it's very rare. I think the key is that as you look at the city limit line and how it jogs, that's because that's where the sanitary sewer service line is. We don't grow on nice even boxes right down to the T road. If we had, we would have improved that. Ultimately, this was a small investment that can certainly enhance the quality of life for many people to have much shorter commutes to and from the city, and ultimately distributes the traffic. One of the things that Chad had mentioned is that the state and the city are planning improvements to Minnesota Avenue all the way down to the Harrisburg corner. Well, this is going to be a fantastic detour route while some of those sections are done. So not only short term are we going to use it for the daily commute, but let's face it, we're making a huge investment into our arterial streets, and we can utilize every detour route we can have some years.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mark, let's talk about the arterial road money again.
Okay.
It's nice to see that it exceeded the budget by $725,000. But when we look at that entirely from the time it was created and the numbers that we were given, this is falling extremely short of the projections. The platting fees were supposed to generate somewhere between $5 and $6 million a year. Even in a record year this year, we're barely going over $1 million. Last year, again, we barely made it over $1 million. So now, instead of this plan being a 60-40, where the platting fees were supposed to be taking care of these arterial roads, the citizens' sales tax money is taking care of this. Instead of a 60-40, it's more of a 90-10. Do you want to speak to that?
Certainly. I think we had the unfortunate point, I think even all across the country, had very low to no development for 3 years. We've really focused on infill, so have the developers. And so you're still seeing a huge reflection on, I think, what's happening from an infill standpoint. There's new lots being platted, but not at the rate that they were prior to 2008. We had a long-standing average of and maturing about 1,000 acres a year. That was a very robust pace. Do I think we'll get back to that? I mean, we're starting to see the steps for us to ultimately get back to that. We will, and this only reflects arterial street platting fees. That $6 million also includes the projection also include water platting fees. To date we've collected, I think it's in the next item of council, just over $200,000. I would expect we're going to get close by the end of the year of being in that 1.6 range. We're steadily, that curve is moving up. But I can't tell you when we're going to be ultimately back at that 1,000 acres per year. That happened consistently for a number of years through the study process. Prior to the study of us bringing forward arterial street platting fees, and I think it's likely we'll get back to that again, but I don't have a crystal ball. I think one of the best steps forward was many cities rounded off their second penny right away and started to utilize it. It all goes into roads, and so people are getting the benefit of it. And ultimately, we're finally to a point where prior to 2009, development never paid for any portion of the roads. I mean, this is, I think, a really good news story. I know that you've struggled with these projections. Ultimately, that's what they were. I hope we get back to that so we can ultimately get those levels of revenue, but I can't stand here and hear that it's going to happen next year.
Well, it's not that I'm struggling with them. The problem is they're not working, period. And I think it would be very proactive of your department to take a look at some alternatives before some are brought forward.
Fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Henchman.
I'll pass.
Okay, very good. I can't even tell you, we haven't even had anybody make a motion on this yet.
Right.
Team?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second Entman.
Councilor Beck has made a motion. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Entenmann has seconded. We've had really good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entman, Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item 20.
Item 20 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment petition number 2013-0707 to Chapter 160.446, Plan Development Districts at northwest corner of West 85th Street and Southwestern Avenue, amending the Three Fountains Plaza Plan Development District regulations and sub-area map. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay, here we go. We have a petition submitted by Joel Dykstra, representing RMB Associates. This is property on the northwest corner of 85th and Western Avenue. It's approximately 22 acres in size. And the applicant is proposing to change a development concept that goes back about 5 years ago with a previous owner of a concept of mixed-use, office, commercial, and multifamily residential. And it became known as the Three Fountains Plaza development. Back in 2008, the concept plan was for putting mixed uses in buildings. First floor would be office or retail, and then the upper floors would be multifamily apartments. The applicant is now proposing to change the development concept, not necessarily the land uses, but putting the buildings more of a single use rather than multiple uses. So with the new concept, there would still be multifamily, there would still be commercial, there would still be office, but they would not be involved in the same building footprint. This involved quite a bit of discussion at the Planning Commission with neighbors in the surrounding residential area. Again, just having questions and concerns of how this would change the original intent of the Three Fountains Plaza. And if we have one more slide, there we go. What we have is a comparison in the black versus the red text. And I can kind of walk you through that. Up in the northwest corner, it was originally proposed for RS2 residential or office, and now it's going to be just RS2 residential development. In the center is the main change. It was originally proposed for multiple dwellings above first floor commercial or office. And in that center portion of the development, it's now going to be just multiple family dwellings without any first floor commercial or office. And at the bottom or the southern end of the site, the land uses would remain the same, a combination of office and commercial development. So the concept is changing more so than the land uses, but it is a change, and we do expect that we'll have public input at the second reading.
Michael, thank you. Council, any questions? This is a first reading right now. Councilor Jameson.
I think it's fair to share with the rest of the councilors that I've already received a ton of public input on this. We used to own this land and came up with the conceptual plans for its use, and it's very unique. It's never been done. And that's part of the challenge that the new owner is having, potentially, is that it hasn't ever been done before, but it's exactly what we've been striving for. If you look at the 2035 plan, you'll see this, not this one, what's in front of us, but the one that we had done as a family to build a conceptual area that had never been done before, but it had been proposed, and I think everybody would like to see it done. The neighbors are very disheartened with the efforts that we had gone through to get them to buy into this proposal, and then now it's being changed again. Probably not the end of the world, this other design, this major amendment that they're proposing, but the neighbors are very disheartened with this land keeps changing in front of them from the time that they lived there. And anyway, I think all of you have been invited to attend a meeting with them, but I've already done it. I know a ton more information than I could talk about, So feel free to contact me as well.
Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st at 7 p.m. for item 20?
So move, Entman.
Second,
Anderson.
Karski.
It's been a motion made and seconded. If there is no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski? Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 21.
Item 21 is a first reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 801 and 823 North Harlem Avenue from the RD Residential District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2013-0808, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Lanny Oringer, the owner of the property. This is in the West Sioux neighborhood. We've had a couple other rezonings that the council has considered recently. It's about 1.4 acres in size, and it is adjacent to other rezonings that were approved on September 3rd by the City Council, both to the north and to the south. This would be the northwest corner of West 2nd Street and Harlem Avenue. And the applicant, again, is proposing to change this from residential to future light industrial development.
Michael, thank you. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Okay, so Mike, this is the one that's basically south of, what is that, Madison?
Yes.
Okay.
It's, yes, it's south of the greenhouses.
Is there going to be a conditional use permit on that?
Potentially, yes, depending on what the actual use would be, yes.
Okay. My concern is semis parking on
Right.
2nd Avenue.
Yes.
And I actually observed that over the weekend, where they were parking on the south side of the street in front of the residentials.
And we're going to be discussing that further with the owner.
Thank you.
So, yep.
Move that we set the date of the second reading.
Second.
Thank you, councilors. Appreciate that. There's been a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1 on this item. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 22.
Item 22 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. for an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at East Dyke Drive and North Quarry Avenue from the Granite Valley Planned Development District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2013-0815, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The Granite Valley development is located on North Cliff Avenue, north of Interstate 90. Dunham Companies has been the developer of this. This particular area consists of about 2.5 acres. It currently is allowed for commercial development, and the proposal now would be to change it to allow for the development of what we're calling a truck terminal for speedy delivery service that would propose to build a facility there that they would stage their delivery vehicles. Because of the proximity to adjacent residential uses, this rezoning would also require a future conditional use permit prior to any construction.
Thanks, Mike. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, I've had several phone calls from the Granite neighborhood up there, and they're extremely concerned about hours of operation and semis, and that it's basically in their backyard. This type of zoning change is going to directly impact that neighborhood. I've asked a few council members to go up and take a look at it, and I guess I just have some major concerns expanding industrial to the north in this area. The petitioner does have a building and operation that is happening about a block away from this, and there is property all around that they could expand onto that's right next to their operations as it is now. So I am going to really ask a lot of questions and probably oppose this. I just feel that that area there in that street that comes in off of North Cliff the north side of that should stay commercial so that it does give that residential that buffer that they need.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. I did get forced out there by Councilor Anderson to drive by there. But I have a question, Mike, on the zoning change. I think what Councilor Anderson is really referring to is the use of that land when the conditional use comes. But tell me more of what other things could happen under the light industrial zoning. I hate to get us all the way to the zoning changed only to deny the use because the use is interfering with the single-family homes. Can you tell me more of?
Yeah, the I-1 zoning district allows primarily warehousing, industrial uses that technically don't have any negative impacts on properties because of noise, odor, those kind of things. Most of our newer industrial parks are zoned I-1.
If I could, the Arctic, there's a glacier ice building next door. What is that zoned?
Do you have that up on the screen?
Yeah, it goes right next door. Yes.
Yeah, that's currently I-1 as well.
What I found when I was over there, that use seemed like it wouldn't interfere with the neighbors who are right behind it, as much as potentially these trucks coming in 24 hours a day that aren't necessarily approved yet. I know we're just talking about the zoning, but
correct.
That's my concern as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I guess to respond to you on that glacier ice and that, their hours of operation are daytime. They're done by 7 o'clock at night. So they basically do work with the neighborhood. There's two small companies there. But as we start to talk about converting that commercial area into industrial, we're putting more pressure on that neighborhood. They're being surrounded by industrial when that wasn't the plan when they were first built either. And it is the same. It isn't a property change. It is the same owner of all that property up there that wants to change the plan now. And that's where I guess I have some very big concerns.
Councilor Rolfing.
May I ask where Speedy is located now? Right on right there?
Mike, can you answer that, please?
He did.
Yeah, there you go. No, they're actually a little more south than that. South and east of that.
Okay, but this would put him right on Cliff, so it's easier in and out.
Right, and then Robar does not go. Does Robar go all the way through to Cliff Avenue? Because when I was up there, all the traffic was going up Robar and then north.
No, it doesn't. No, you got to go south.
It comes here, then they come up here and then out. That's what I'm saying. That's all. Right now, that whole industrial to the south has to come to.
This is their building here.
Yeah, that could be it there. Yeah. But yeah, because this is another one. They're back over here.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I'm sorry.
Would you? No, you're doing a good job. Could you help explain to the people what you're looking at and where you're going?
I'm trying to see the name of the street there that.
Or Mike, can you help? As Councilor Anderson, Jr. is speaking, could you just kind of point as you're listening?
The red X, if you're looking at the screen in color, shows the current location of the Speedy delivery.
Okay, so then they have to come west to Quarry Avenue and then go north to Dyke Drive to get out on Cliff.
To Cliff Avenue currently.
So that's what that whole industrial area right now comes up to the Dyke and Quarry intersection and then goes out. So now we're going to put this business right on that intersection that is basically semi-driven. And I just see a major impact to that neighborhood.
Well, very good. I think people of Sioux Falls, before we get a motion, Councilor Anderson Jr. is just giving you a good indication of how these councilors take this stuff seriously and how they actually drive out there and look at stuff and they don't just vote. But with that in mind, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st?
So move, Entenmann.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Entenmann's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If there isn't further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 23.
Item 23 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. for an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 600 West 81st Street from the RS2 Residential and Garden Village 2 PD District to the RC Recreational Conservation and RS2 Residential District, petition number 2013-0811, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Preston Metler, who is developing this particular area, known as the Garden Village addition. It's generally northwest of the Landscape Garden Center, and this is about a 1.2 acre total land area. The majority of it is being rezoned. It's part of an existing detention pond area, and then there's another corner that's going to be expanded for an additional residential lot.
Thanks, Mayo.
Move to set the date for the second reading.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Entenmann's made a motion to set a hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann. Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 24.
Item 24 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. for an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 1801 South Katy Avenue from the A1 Agricultural District to the RS2 Residential District, petition number 2013-0805, and amending the official zoning map for the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a 5-acre parcel. Rejoice Lutheran Church is the applicant. This is located just west of Marion Road, south of West 26th Street. The 5 acres has been annexed and is being proposed for a future church site.
Move approval, or move,
Excuse me.
Oh,
Is there
I'm sorry.
something else,
It's
Mr.
the next
Cooper?
one that's going to get deferred. I'm sorry.
The next one? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That was my
Councilor Rolfing, go right ahead.
yes, move approval to, for second reading on Tuesday, October 1st.
Great job.
And Karski.
Thank you. It has been a motion. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 25.
Item 25 is a first reading to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. for an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 223 North Franklin Avenue from the RD Residential District to the C2 General Commercial District, petition number 2013-0802, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay, we're going to be requesting a deferral of this first reading to the November 5th City Council on request of the applicant. But just quickly, this is located at the corner of 8th Street and Franklin Avenue. It's JCL Solutions, janitorial supply facility. They were approached by the owner of a residential lot directly to the north of their facility. They're considering that as a possible future expansion, but they're still looking at that, and so that's why they're asking for this to be deferred.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
So, Mike, where they've just built an addition, they just built a huge building behind their commercial building. That's already been, the zoning on that has been changed?
Yes, that's already correct.
So now they want to expand further into the residential neighborhood.
Yeah, well, again, the property owner to the north is the one that approached them if they were interested in looking at acquiring that for some type of other future potential building or parking addition.
Is this something planning supports?
Well, we looked at it, we've looked at this discussion about where do you draw the line between commercial and residential, and it does vary in that neighborhood, kind of from block to block. So we kind of went back and forth on whether or not we would support this, but we did not have any neighborhood comments at the Planning Commission. But it's something that I still think we're we're still looking at as well with the applicant.
I hope to have further discussions with you because we have the same issues over on West 12th Street too.
Yes.
Where businesses are moving into the residentials.
Right.
Thank you.
Move to defer item 25 to November 5th.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion to defer this item to November 5th, and it was seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 27.
Item 27 is a resolution amending the 2013-2017 capital program.
Mayor and City Council, Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. This ties into the previous item we discussed with the appropriation. That item appropriated the funds. This simply modifies the capital plan.
Thanks, Mark. Would anybody want to speak to this item in the audience?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, sent by Councilor Rolfing. Any discussion? Councilor Staggers?
Yes. I'm just wondering, maybe should we have done the resolution first before we did the appropriation? Because we've already appropriated the money. But anyway, that being the case, we're still dealing with this issue of the City of Sioux Falls spending money on roads outside of the city limits. So I guess it really doesn't make any difference. But
Councilor Staggers, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Staggers. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
no.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That's passed 7-1. Item 28.
Item 28 is a resolution approving an amendment to the electric power sales agreement between Heartland Consumers Power District and the City of Sioux Falls.
All right. Good evening again. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Tonight we have a contract amendment to bring forward for your consideration. Tonight in the audience that's worked on this is City Attorney's Office, Finance Team, Trent Lubers, Mike Burkhart, that leads the Light and Power Division. Blair Metzger is a gentleman that you've seen many times on our rate and power analysis. It's a good professional guidance. Then we also have two gentlemen here from Heartland Power that are based out of Madison, South Dakota, Mike Malone and Drew Duncan. You'll hear from Mike Malone shortly. Just a brief setup that the Light and Power Division of Public Works serves about 2,500 customers. It gets about half its power to distribute to its customers off the dams, and that's through WAPA, Western Area Power Administration. Earlier this year, you supported us extending WAPA's contract out to 2050 to lock in our allocation with WAPA. This is the next tier of that to actually lock in our supplemental power, which is the other half of the power needs for these customers. We've had a relationship now with Heartland for 7 years, and it's been very good. When we initially signed up with Heartland, they stepped us into their demand rates. So the changes that we were going through when we switched from Excel to Heartland had a minimal impact on our customers. As we look forward, it won't be long before our current contract is due, and that's in 2022. And so Heartland approached us with the build of the event center being a new large load that's going to be into this service territory that they said with their multiple communities that they currently serve that they wanted to create a large load incentive program. It essentially, when you have a power customer like the event center, let me first tell you what a good power customer would be. A good power customer would be like the water plant, something that runs very consistently 24/7, 365 days a year. Event centers, there's days when the lights are off, and then the next day there's 12,000 fans there, a lot of power being used, huge concert, and then the next day the lights are off. And so in the power business is a lot different than the water business. You've actually got to size your electric facilities for that concert event. And so in relationship to that, you then pay what they call a demand charge. which usually accounts for about half of your electric bill in the power business, especially in industrial loads. So as we sat down with Heartland, and again, they're a nonprofit agency based out of Madison. We've had a good relationship with them. They proposed a 3-year no demand charge for any new customer that's brought into a territory that they serve that uses more than 1 megawatts of electricity. That's a large load. The event center will use that amount of electricity. And so as we started to extrapolate out what could this potentially save the city of Sioux Falls, and Jeff Gordemaker is here from SMG, one of the largest operational costs of an event center is the electrical cost. And so their plan that they've offered to all of their communities is a 3-year large load incentive, which basically erases the demand charge. For the city of Sioux Falls, just taking their base incentive program would save us almost $500,000 a year. And so that would net out to $1.5 million. Significant savings in return for us to consider extending our contract an additional 15 years. When we sat down and negotiated with them, we asked for 2 additional years. And so they have one program for all their customers. We, by this amendment, extended that from 3 to 5 years. And so our first 5 years of operating the event center after it's commissioned, we could expect to save about $2.5 million in operational costs to offset those electrical costs. So from our standpoint, from our staff, working with the attorneys, finance, our consultant, we feel like this is a good proposal to bring forward to you. I'd like to introduce you so you can at least understand a little bit more about what Heartland is. Again, they're a local company, and bring up Mike Malone to just give you the basis of who they are, how they set their rates, and we're both here, and anyone here on the team is here to answer any questions. Mike?
Welcome, Mike, and thanks for staying so late tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Council. Heartland's one of those organizations that it's kind of not a whole lot of people know about us. We were started in 1969, actually, by state statute. We're organized underneath the Consumer Power District statutes in South Dakota. Very few entities like us throughout the U.S. You've probably heard of Nebraska Public Power District in Nebraska, so it'd be similar to that. Heartland serves municipals throughout South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. We're very similar in rate structure as a municipal is, essentially. We have a publicly elected board of 10 members that vote on our rates. Our rates have to be approved annually. We are a nonprofit governmental agency, essentially, and our rates are cost-based, essentially. So we serve 28 customers again. Most of them are small, rural customers in South Dakota and Minnesota, but I echo the comments that Mark had earlier, and it's been a great relationship so far, and we look forward to having a long-term relationship with the City of Sioux Falls. And if you have any questions, feel free. Thank you.
Mike, thank you, and Mark, thank you. Before we go to the council, I do want to, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council? Councilor Staggers?
Yes. Did I hear you correctly saying that you're actually a governmental entity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.?
Okay, so we were talking of reducing or eliminating these peak period charges, correct?
Correct.
And basically, the one entity we're looking at right now is the event center.
Correct.
Is there any discussion or thoughts about expanding that to some of our other facilities that are experiencing the same problems? A few weeks ago, we had the Pavilion come and tell us that they were having problems also with peak period charges because of the events that they run.
Sure.
Is that something that is you would be open to discussion about?
The board's current policy and a program that they have approved, is for new large loads or existing loads to curb that demand charge down as they are new entities and trying to get their business, their feet underneath them. We do have other programs, Heartland does. We have energy efficiency programs, grant monies, lighting retrofits, et cetera, that are available to all of our customers and our customer footprint. So I would recommend that they contact us to see what we can do on that end. So,
thank you.
Welcome. Councilor Karski.
I look at this and it kind of sounds like a free lunch to me, and I kind of get wary of free lunches. Is there a downside? I mean, when I look at what you're giving up, there has to be something in it for you too. What are we looking at here?
there is something in it for us. Most of our customers' contracts go to 2040 and 2050. So what we get out of that is having a contract to 2036. You know, just so you know, I'm the CFO of the entity, and we have outstanding bonds that go to 2040. So, you know, having our contracts match the time periods of our bonds is very important to us from a credit quality and a payback standpoint.
So you're looking at leveling your revenues, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Karski, that was one of the best questions I've heard since I've been the mayor. Very good. Councilor, and I'm sorry I shouldn't have said that, but it just was. Councilor Rolfing.
This one may not, but you're going to like it.
I will like it, Councilor Rolfing.
I'm wondering if Darren has hit this guy up for a Lowe's box yet in the new event center.
Darren, is Harlan Power have a Loge box? They do not.
No.
Very
well,
good.
we better start talking to them.
Yeah.
You know, they better have some seats or something anyway. So thank you for your partnership. We appreciate it.
And so do we.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I would move to approve.
Second.
It's been a motion to approve this item, and it has been seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Anderson, Jr., did you have another comment? Okay, very good. Very good. Well, Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
As well. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Zenteman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 29.
Item 29 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Annexation 2013-0901 Pinewood Edition, Tracks 456 and adjacent right-of-way.
This is a petition to add 3 properties into the city limits. The property is located on 85th and Brandy Place, which is a private street on the south side of 85th Street, just east of Western Avenue. This involves 3 property owners. We've been working on this for quite a while. This started out as a city-initiated annexation, and today the Land Use Committee heard Jeff Schmidt give an update of some 50 areas within the proximity of the existing city limits that we've identified for potential annexation. Through the discussions that we've had with the property owners, we now have those that are being proposed tonight have agreed voluntarily to be included. So this is not a forced annexation tonight. The property owners have agreed to be annexed, and they are looking forward to getting city utilities as well as making improvements to Brandy Place. The development on the west side, which is currently in the city limits, is a Ronning development, and they're also interested in working with this group of property owners to make improvements to Brandy Place. So what started out as a city-initiated annexation is now being presented tonight with the property owner's consent. We're recommending approval.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this? Council?
Move to approve Entenmann.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Edmonds made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. There is no discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Council, any additional items?
Move to adjourn, Erpenbach.
Second, Rolfing.
There has been a motion to adjourn. It has been seconded. People of Sioux Falls, before you vote on this item, you should be aware your council's been here since 4 p.m. and actually probably earlier than that today. It's now 10 o'clock, and actually the budgeting process, so you know, has started in about March, and now it's September. Is that right? It's September. And so there has been a ton of dialogue, a ton of meetings, a ton of open communication with the people that we serve, and I'm very proud of this group. With that in mind, all those in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned, Sioux Falls. Thank you, and make it a great night.